Welcome to Module 3, and we start with Topic A, the adding and subtracting of fractions. But before we get to adding and subtracting fractions, we need to know something about equivalent fractions. And so the first thing that we're going to do with your students is help them understand what equivalent fractions are, that they actually have the equal value, which is where the word equivalent comes from. So we're going to start with a fraction like 2/3. And we're going to ask, what are some other names for 2/3? How can we rename it? So on a number line, 2/3 would look like this. We would divide up the number line between 0 and 1 into 3 equal parts. This would be 1/3. This would be 2/3. 0, of course, would be 0/3. And 1 would be 3/3. So when we make an equivalent fraction, we want to help kids understand that this value for 2/3 doesn't change. We're just going to give it a new name. And we do that by dividing up the parts even more. So let's say we divide it, and we can divide it into as many parts as we want. Let's say we're going to divide it into 4 parts. So we're going to do this. I divided each third into 4 parts. Now there's a total of 12 equal parts between 0 and 1, with this being 0/12, this being 4/12, 1, 2, 3, 4, this being 8/12, and this of course being 12/12. So 8/12 is another name for 2/3. It's the same value, because the denominator shows the size of the piece. We've got smaller pieces. There's 12 of them, so each one is smaller. But we get more of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them instead of just 2. And that's the relationship that we're trying to help kids understand. We show it to them another way, too. We show it to them with an area model. It would look like this. We'd start with a rectangle, and we would divide it into thirds like this. And then I would shade the 2/3. And this represents the 2/3. And then just like I did before, I would divide that into 4 parts then, because I want to make a new name for that fraction. And there you can see now I have 12 equal parts, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are shaded. And that shows 8/12, which is exactly the same thing as 2/3. Then we show it to them in a numerical way. We multiply the numerator and the denominator. We multiply the number of pieces. Instead of 3, now there's 12. And we multiply how many of those pieces we get. Before it was just 2, now we get 2, we divide it into 4, so we get 8 pieces. But they're smaller. 3 different ways to help kids understand what equivalent fractions mean. So now once kids have a good understanding of equivalent fractions, now we want them to be able to decompose fractions into different parts, because we want them to understand, just like whole numbers, 10 can be made up of 5 plus 5, or 8 plus 2, or 7 plus 3. We want them to understand that fractions are the same way. They can be decomposed into smaller parts that can be put back together. So we might take something like 7/8, and we want kids to be able to know that that is 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 1/8. Or we might want to rephrase that as 2 times 3/8 plus 1/8. Or we might take something like 8/3. And we want them to know that that is 3/3 plus 3/3 plus 2/3. And you can see how decomposing it like that is going to help them later be able to turn a fraction like this into its mixed number form, which is 2, 1 plus 1, and 2/3. This is all preparation for helping kids to be able to turn fractions that are greater than 1 into mixed numbers. Now you may call this an improper fraction. It might have been what you were taught when you were in school. We don't really call them improper fractions anymore. We call them fractions that are greater than 1 because that's what they really are. There's nothing really improper about them. Yeah, so then we might think about something like 15/4. And again, if kids are trying to struggle with, oh, what's another name for that? We can decompose it into, well, it's 4/4 plus another 4/4, that's 8/4, plus another 4/4, that's 12/4, and then I got 3/4 left over. Oh, that's easy, that's 3 3/4. And that's how we're going to help kids to really understand what they're doing when they're changing fractions that are greater than 1 into mixed numbers.